Hi, friends. I'm Gail Wetherill, also known as the Dementia Nurse. Welcome to night number 4 of Unwrapping the Gift of Hope, a holiday program for dementia caregivers. The last few nights, we've talked a bit about feelings. Last night, we talked about getting help with our feelings, and the night before, we talked about identifying feelings and writing them down. And tonight, I'm going to spend some time talking about anxiety. We'll talk some more later in our 12 nights of Christmas about depression, because anxiety and depression are what I call the terrible two. And I think that to one degree or another, those are things that most dementia caregivers deal with at some point in their caregiving journey, if not the entire way through. So we're going to talk a little about anxiety tonight. And one of the reasons for that, I was doing some reading and found a study that was done, 2007, I believe it was. And they had a group of participants, subjects in this study, and they used brain imaging. MRIs, they looked at blood flow in the brain and so forth. And what they were looking at is what sorts of activities change the brain. Activities that focused on negative emotions. And lo and behold, one thing that came out clear as a bell was that when people wrote down what they were feeling, their brain lit up in parts that had not been activated before they wrote these things down. And the effect of those parts of the brain waking up or chiming in was that the anxiety was diminished. So there you have it. We know we've got the scientific proof. Writing down how we really feel is something that can help ease some of that anxiety. And I'm a big fan of $1 spiral notebooks that I bought at the dollar store. You know, these fancy journals and all, they're lovely, but I tend to not want to write in them because they look so nice. I don't want to mess them up. So just give me a good old spiral notebook any day and we'll be good. But just getting into the habit of writing down, you know, especially when you're having a bad day. And, you know, Grandpa can be swinging from the chandelier. Sometimes you just have to let whirling dervishes whirl. You can be sitting there writing down, if he doesn't stop this, I'm going to go crazy, or whatever it is you're feeling. One of the things about anxiety is that to deal with it, it's helpful to really get down to the root feelings that are behind the anxiety. Anxiety is basically an emotion of fear. And there's a lot to be fearful of when you're a dementia caregiver. It's a lot for anybody to be afraid of. But what helps is to write down, to go beyond saying, I feel anxious, I'm antsy, I'm edgy, I'm, wired for sound here. Well, what is it you're anxious about? And one of the ways to get to that is get your trusty $1 notebook out and write at the top of the page, I am afraid of, and then just list it, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to wherever you need to go. I'm always anxious as I'll get out this time of year. I mean, in addition to my baseline. Yeah. Um, and so when I sit down and I start thinking about it, I think, okay, so what is it I'm afraid of? Um, not so much now that my children are grown and they've flown the coop and have little families of their own. But especially when they were younger, I was always afraid that I was going to disappoint them on Christmas, that I wouldn't get the right gifts. I was afraid that I would run out of money and end up, buying gifts, but not being able to pay the light bill, which, is a bad combo. There's just a lot of different things that we can be afraid of. When you're a dementia caregiver, you can be afraid of so many things. Is a time going to come where they don't recognize me? Are they going to wander off in the instant I turn my back at the shops? Are they going to get so debilitated or so aggressive or whatever it is that I can't take care of them anymore here at home, and I'm going to have to move them to a facility? I'm afraid that this is going to go on forever. And I'm afraid that when all is said and done, I won't be me. There won't be anything left of me. I don't even know what me is anymore, because I've been in this role for so long that if I'm not caregiving, then who or what am I? Oh, it's a lot to think about. And it's a lot on your shoulders. And you're human. If you don't have those kinds of fears, boy, I don't know what you've been drinking, but if we can bottle it, we can make $1 million. You know what I mean? But if we're writing down the things that we're afraid of, the second step after that is to play each scenario through. What we're trying to do is get to the likelihood of something in particular happening, something that we're afraid of. Let's take, for instance, if they get to the point where I can't take care of them safely here at home anymore. So we're afraid of that. So the thing we follow that with is, and then finish the sentence. I'm afraid I won't be able to take care of them anymore at home. And then I'll have to put them in a facility. And then we'll run out of money. And then I will lose the house. And then I'll be on the street. And follow that trail and write it out, because you're not going to remember it just off, thinking it off the top of your head. But then what you do is you take what you've written out and you start looking at it objectively, each one of those, and then, okay, what's the likelihood that they're going to get so needy that you can't safely take care of them at home? Well, there's a decent chance that will one day happen. So, okay, that's a realistic assessment there. That's something to be anxious about. But then we go, as we work our way on down the line, to, and then we won't have any money, and then I'll lose the house. Well, if you live in the United States, there's actually a federal law that says if a spouse is on Medicaid and the wife or husband is still living in the family home, then that family home is not considered part of the assets that have to be sold in order for that person to qualify to get Medicaid funds. It's called spousal impoverishment. And it's one of the few fabulous little federal laws that are out there. But you probably may or may not have had that information, because God knows people will tell you, oh yes, this is how it is. And they're basing it off of simply their own situation or one or two other friends who have said how it was for them. So you have to do some fact checking. You know, is this realistic? I'm going to end up on the street. What are the real chances of that happening? Probably pretty small. If you get in bad shape, call me. I got a spare bedroom. But what we're trying to do is introduce facts into feelings. And the concept we have to go with is that feelings are not facts. I may feel like a failure. That doesn't mean I am a failure. I may feel like nothing is going to turn out right, but that doesn't mean that nothing is going to turn out right. And so with our feelings, what we're looking for, what we're trying to get to is the truth. What is the truth of the situation? Because once we know what the truth is, then we can start thinking about taking action. You know, if there's a possibility that someday I won't be able to safely take care of them here, well, what can I do about that now? I can educate myself about what the different types of facilities are and what I really do or don't need to do in terms of finances and Medicaid down the road, and just gathering facts. Because when we attack feelings with facts, they tend to shrink the feelings. They don't go away because we're all human and there is no magic bullet. But we can temper them and at least get them down to a level that we can live with them. You know, I have had major depressive disorder since I was a kid. And it's gotten to be kind of like the old Simon and Garfunkel song, the line that says, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." I think that for a lot of caregivers, anxiety and depression are going to be companions through much of this journey that we're on. And I think that the more that we resist that, the bigger those feelings get. So, what we're looking at today is we're looking at naming what we're feeling, looking at what are the things we're afraid of, and introducing truth through objective eyes. How likely are these things to happen? And if there is a chance that they'll happen, what can I do about it now? Because when you're a dementia caregiver, it's easy to feel like there is nothing you can do about anything. All of this is out of my control. I can't control their brain disease. I can't control what they're going to say or how they're going to act. I can't I can't. But there are some things that we can control. And to stay afloat, we have to connect ourselves to what are the things that we can control. So the moral of this story is stop by the dollar store, get you a few spiral notebooks, and get out your trusty pen and write some of these things down. It will engage parts of your brain that can help diminish that ball of anxiety that you feel like it's going to make you explode if you don't do something with it, and soon. I hope that helps a little bit. On this road, boy, we have to have help in increments. A little bit of help here, a little bit of help there. I wish I had a bigger, faster answer, but that's the reality of things. And the other reality is that when we have feelings that we wish we didn't have, they only get worse by trying to make them go away. We have to acknowledge them, sit with them. If you're a person of faith, I always say, the fears that I have that are realistic, I have to counter that with faith. Do what I can now. God helps those who help themselves. Do the legwork, but know that so much of that is going to be in other hands to take care of me. I appreciate you coming by tonight. Tomorrow night, we'll be back. And anything could happen between now and then. I really appreciate you letting me come into your home. And I hope something I've said will give you just a little piece of encouragement to put that foot down in front of the other and pick up the next foot and put it down in front of the other. I'm Gail Wetherill, also known as the Dementia Nurse, reminding you that what the brain cannot remember, the heart can never forget. Thanks for listening. I'll see you soon.